Denise Arola here at OEP, and we have been working on a series of short videos on frequently asked questions. And this particular video is about resources that help you gauge and support students in their progress during the year. And this one's going to be about the Lexile and Quantile resources that are available to you. They are premium resources for free in Arkansas. To get to these resources, you can go to the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education, or as I call them, DESE, to their assessment webpage. And in the webpage, you'll find a series of icons. Each of these icons links you to a particular topic. And in this case, we are looking at the Family and Educator Toolkits, which I have highlighted in a green square. And when you click on that, you get this smaller view where the Family and Educator Toolkits you can select separately. So I'm going to select and drill into the Educator Toolkit. When you select the Educator Toolkit, there are numerous icons and links on this page. So you have to scroll a little bit until you get to 3 through high school Atlas and click on the Lexile and Quantile Hub icon. When you do that, it's going to open up a page for the Lexile Hub website. Now, if you're like me and just recently learned about this, you probably do not have an account yet. So to get to the point where you can access the premium resources, click on the little login button in the upper right-hand side. When that opens, if you haven't created an account, in the highlighted green rectangle, I've highlighted the Register Now. So you're going to click on Register Now. Like any other website, you're going to create a username and a password, but you're also going to select the state of Arkansas and your district. And what that does is it opens up the door to these premium free resources. So you make your selections, you hit Create Account. You will receive an email that or you'll get a notice that says success, an email has been sent to you, and you go to check your email so you can confirm your account. Once you click on the link in your email, you'll be able to log in and get started. Once you've done that, you'll also get a nice little email that explains why these resources are free and how we have access to the premium tools in the Lexile and Quantile Hub. Here I've logged in, and now I'm going to select the tab for educators. This is the landing page for educators, and from this page you can get to basics and you can explore an incredibly huge amount of resources that are buried deep in this site. So on the bottom right you have things like understanding the measures. How do I interpret those measures? And each of those is a hyperlink to another page within the hub. On the left-hand side, if you want to just explore the tools or find very specific resources, you can go down that area. I'm going to open up the first link on the list on the right, which is Understanding Lexile and Quantile Measures, a guide for educators. Now, I'm not an expert on Lexiles and Quantiles. They've been around for a very long time, and they've been available at various levels on some tests and not on others, but they are available on our grades 3 through high school Atlas assessments. And so Lexile and Quantile levels, what's nice about them is they're normed for fall, winter, and spring for each grade. So when you're looking at a student's fall interim Lexile level or Quantile level, you have a sense of whether or not they're on track with the grade level on average, right? So this is a different measure from are they on track for the grade level standards, but at the same time, it gives you a way to follow progress. So you can use them. They're going to be inside the student tables that you export in the Atlas portal, and you can use those to see where your students fall relative to the norms. And then there's some deeper tools I'm going to show you that you can use to figure out where do I need to, like, what does this mean when a student's at this level and what do I do about it? Some questions I frequently get are, how do I know if my student is making progress from the beginning of the year to the end of the year? And you can certainly do that by looking at how far their scale score has changed from the fall to the winter to the summative. And you can also follow their Lexile levels. The scale score and the Lexile levels are on this continuum, and you can use those not interchangeably. They do not mean the same thing, but you can use them to try and understand where students are relative to the content. So let me give you an example. Here's the basics on Lexile and Quantile measures. And this information gives you the definitions of these measures. What I'm going to do is take you into this math skills database and show you how I might use them to understand my students' performance. If you know me, you know I'm an observer of nature, of humans, and I practice a lot of noticing and wondering. And I practice some of that noticing and wondering because I've never had training on this site, and so I'm just exploring. I clicked on that skills database to explore it, and I noticed that I can actually select my state, my grade level of interest, and the state standard of interest that I want to go deeper into. So on the top, I have an example of a kindergarten standard that we were talking about in a meeting yesterday. And what is the difference between a student who can do this at a level 2 versus a student at a level 3? What does it take? What does a student have to do to get to a level 3? And then on the bottom, I've got this 5th grade standard about adding and subtracting decimals to the hundredths place using models or drawings and images. So we're going to look at this 5th grade standard. I selected Arkansas, so it gives me the exact wording of our standards. Once I've made that selection, it's going to go to a screen that's going to show me different skill levels, and then I can actually specify quantile ranges. So I chose this 5th grade computation and algebraic reasoning standard 3. And it's about decimals. So the first thing it does is it shows me the focus skills for students. It's estimating and computing sums and differences with decimals, adding and subtracting decimals using models and pictures, etc. Now, that's not the only information I have. So on the right-hand side, I can actually put in a quantile range in the 2 little squares. And I might want to do that because although this is a 5th grade skill, I may have students at a much lower or much higher quantile, or I might want to know, like, what are the skills, the prerequisite skills that I might formatively assess for so that I know how to pinpoint support for these students if they're at a lower level. If I want to extend or stretch them, I can also input a higher range on the quantiles, and that would enable me to look at some of the other skills that I could then extend for a student in terms of their learning. So the prerequisite skills are, as it says here, are skills and concepts that students generally need to know before they're going to be successful with the skill that you're focused on. And in this case, you can see the quantiles are color-coded in terms of whether or not they're below, at, or above the range that you've specified. So this one has, you can see that 3 of the 4 prerequisite skills are at a lower quantile level than one of them. So comparing decimals, tenths, and hundredths with and without models is at a lower quantile level than identifying the place value of each digit in a multi-digit number to the thousandths place. So you get a sense of what are the different mathematical things that are supporting this student to be able to access this grade level standard. And then at the top, you see the supporting skills. And it's interesting because what this made me think about is, as a teacher, when I was teaching math, I loved math games, and I loved doing things that could be incredibly boring, sometimes confusing, but things that I wanted my students to understand and become more fluent in. I would do a lot of games. And these two supporting skills, applying appropriate types of estimation for sums and differences, that's actually a fun one that you can do some games with. And then the one on the right, estimating and computing the cost of items that are greater than $1 and making change, because again, they're using the powers of 10 here. And notice that with each of these little boards on these screens, there's a link to resources that if you're not sure what does it mean to help a student get more solid in a supporting skill, you can actually click on See Resources, and that will link you. Again, I mentioned the premium resources that are free to you as an Arkansas educator. So I was looking at a grade level of data, fifth grade, and I was thinking about students who were at a level 2 and what skills they might have and what might be some struggles. So I put in a quantile range based on the quantile score of a student right around level 1 to level 2, and then up to, or actually at the bottom of level 1 and right around the cut with level 2. So you can see the quantile range 400 to 590, and that's not exact, but I got that off the student data. And when I took the same standard, you can see that the colors change slightly. So for students in this quantile range, it is going to be below the quantile range, these skills of subtracting 2 and 3 digit numbers with and without models for number and word problems. So the prerequisites are being able to work with whole numbers, but also comparing decimals, tenths, and hundredths with and without models. So these are going to be closer to their wheelhouse or below their wheelhouse, what might be comfortable for them to do. And then the green one is at 490, and that's subtracting multi-digit numbers with regrouping in number and word problems, and then identifying the place value of each digit in multi-digit numbers to the thousandths place is actually above that quantile range. So that's something that the student may be struggling to access and do. So what I like about it is it breaks it into smaller parts and helps me to see if I were supporting the student, I may need to really hit them in that within the quantile range, make sure they're very fluent and comfortable in the support, the focus skills, the supporting skills, and then checking on their prerequisite skills. What's missing for these kids? In case you're an ELA teacher or somebody who also has a responsibility for teaching reading and writing and language, there are also Lexiles for reading. And when you click on the Find a Book icon from that very first document that was Understanding the Scores, you're going to get this screen, which helps you to find a book. You can search for a book in the very top with its title or author and get the Lexile levels, or you can specify a Lexile level. Now, I wasn't sure what the Lexile levels were for various grade levels, and I know yesterday we had a question at the 7th grade level, like how do we differentiate what text looks like at the 7th grade level? What's more complex? What's less complex? Well, this is the sort of thing where you can find that information out, and you can find literature and reading that goes with it. Before I decided to go into the reading, I did open up a data set for a group of 7th graders in terms of their ELA scores. And inside the file that I downloaded from the Atlas portal is the Lexile range. I went in and I thought, I have some kids who are really struggling with reading fundamentals, which is also includes some vocabulary. And here I'm not specifying a particular standard, but I noticed that that was the reporting category where my students were not the strongest. So I used, on the right-hand side here, I've highlighted in a green rectangle this option to search by grade. And when you click on that, it opens up and you tell it the grade level. So here I've said grade 7. And then I'm working with a group of students who say that the reading is difficult. And so I want something that is going to kind of work with this group of students. So I hit submit, and it's going to give me a Lexile range that will populate in the charts next to that button that I highlighted in a green rectangle. Then I use the different filters at the bottom of this search page. So I could choose a subcategory, or I can choose fiction, nonfiction. In this case, I selected, I'm really interested in Lexile and vocabulary and English learners. And so I've clicked those. My first shot at it, I chose a graphic novel. That did not work. There was nothing to return. So I removed graphic novel, and instead I did high interest, lower reading level, and that's the high-low option here. And I actually got some results. Now, granted, it's not a lot of results, but it's 2 books that I didn't know would fit those criteria. So it's kind of a neat tool to explore. I'm sure librarians and media specialists are doing this all the time. I'm sure those of you who are ELA teachers are using tools like this all of the time. But for those of you who don't know about it, here's some new resources. I could spend days exploring the resources in the Lexile and Quantile Hub. And because as Arkansas educators and families, we get premium access, there is so much here that we could explore. For example, there's district toolkits. There's, within the district toolkit, there are framework fundamentals, measures in action, how to actually use these and understand these at a deeper level. Then at the very top where it says Resource Center, you can see that file folder where it says View All Resources. Well, that's a kind of a neat page that gave me a little bit of a surprise. At first, I thought, oh my goodness, this is just a long list. But you can filter, and you can make selections up here in the filter. And then notice, what I really loved was, as I was looking at what had popped up here, I haven't filtered for anything, but I realized there are resources in Spanish. So there's so much to dive into in here, and hopefully this is just a quick intro, and you get curious and you decide to go noticing and wondering about what you can access in the premium subscription that's free to you for the Lexile and Quantile Hub. So stay tuned, because we'll probably dig into a few more resources, as well as if there are other questions that you are wanting to ask or you want a short video on, let me know. You can contact us at oep@uark.edu, and we really enjoy being able to be of service to you. Thank you.